Say, did you catch Prime Minister Mark Carney's affordability announcement in Nepean, Ontario the other day? Well, here's an excerpt.
So today we're announcing that our government is launching the new Canada's Groceries and Essentials benefit. This will deliver hundreds of dollars more into the bank accounts of more than 12 million Canadians.
First of all, I am just so done with these cheesy photo ops. In fairness, every party engages in this nonsense, but really, was it truly necessary for the Prime Minister of Canada to stand in the produce section of a supermarket to deliver government policy? What's more, can you just imagine the conversation before that presser kicked off, such as the PM asking a staffer, say, what are all those multicolored spheres? Oh, Mr. Prime Minister, those are various fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables, you say. Yes, Mr. Prime Minister, we're in a grocery store. This is where the little people buy their food. Oh, I see. How quaint. Let's be real, folks. When was the last decade Mark Carney went grocery shopping? But I digress. Anyway, the point of the presser is that some Canadians are going to save a few $100 on groceries thanks to the federal government raising the existing GST credit amount by 25%. The government will also provide a one-time payment of 50% of the GST credit this year. The program will run for the next 5 years. And Carney noted this scheme will, quote, deliver hundreds of dollars into the bank accounts of more than 12 million Canadians, end quote. Well, on the plus side, I'll say this, delivering money into the bank accounts of Canadians is a whole lot better than the federal Liberals freezing the bank accounts of Canadians, which Carney fully endorsed back in 2022, by the way. After all, Canadians espousing political wrong thought regarding the Freedom Convoy, well, they had to be disciplined, you see. Even so, from an economic perspective, Canada needs major surgery. But with this announcement, Dr. Carney is essentially applying a Band-Aid to a bullet wound. But it's curious to see that suddenly Carney, much like his Democrat counterpart south of the border, has hopped aboard the affordability bandwagon. After all, the elbows up strategy has been an utter disaster in terms of getting a trade deal with the US. So now the Liberals are pivoting, saying they are going to fix a country that is increasingly becoming unaffordable for so many Canadians. And golly, why are things so expensive these days? Well, at the presser, Carney being Carney put the blame on everything from climate change to COVID-19. No, I swear. Conspicuously absent regarding the so-called reasons for the root causes of inflation was any mention of federal Liberal policies that have been in place for the last decade. But hey, never mind. Carney also noted Ottawa will invest $500 million in a fund to help food businesses expand their supply chains, to which I have to say, what's in it for Brookfield Asset Management? Now, having said that, nothing sets off my internal BS detector more so than lefties promising affordability. Case in point, in Virginia last November, Democrat Abigail Spanberger successfully ran for governor on a platform all about making Virginia more affordable. When sworn in, here's what Ms. Spanberger stated, quote, "My first executive order as governor directs my entire administration to identify where we can reduce costs for Virginians. We must lower costs in housing, healthcare, childcare, and energy. Families deserve relief," end quote. So what has played out over the course of the last several weeks in the great state of Virginia? Well, would you believe Virginians are now subject to dozens of brand new taxes, as well as increases to existing taxes. Oh, yes. One of those fiscal hits was a backdoor carbon tax that will result in Virginians paying about $1,200 more per year for electricity. Oh, that's US dollars, by the way, not Canadian pesos. There will also be an additional local sales tax in all Virginia counties and cities as well. Virginians can now expect to pay, deep breath here, a gun and ammunition tax, a delivery tax that will hit Amazon, Uber Eats, FedEx, and UPS orders, an event tax, a storage facility tax, a gym membership tax, a dog walking tax, a dog grooming tax, a counseling tax, a vehicle repair tax, a home repair tax, a dry cleaning tax, and on and on and on it goes. Yikes, so much for the state's official tourism slogan, Virginia is for lovers. There ain't all that much that's lovable in Virginia these days. Oh, and besides, the hotel tax is going up too. The point is, Spanberger ran on a platform of affordability, but her policies will have the precise opposite effect. Isn't that the very definition of bait and switch? And folks, isn't it downright fascinating how positions of politicians can seismically shift on the fly? It is uncanny that what's promised during an election campaign disappears when the election campaign is toast. You know, kind of like how Carney, some 10 months ago, when he was out on the hustings, labeled China as Canada's biggest security threat.
I think the biggest security threat to Canada is China.
And that China these days is now our newest whiz-bang trading partner, much to the chagrin of our biggest trading partner. But again, never mind. The thing is, an enhanced GST credit for some Canadians is fine. Every bit helps these days, I suppose, and beggars can't be choosers. And I suppose for some Canadians in the months ahead, they're going to be downright giddy about purchasing a Chinese EV for less than $35,000. Count me out of that demographic, by the way. But if the Carney Liberals were really serious about affordability, then why won't they establish a Canadian version of the U.S. Department of Government Efficiency, aka DOGE? Because as is so often the case with government bureaucracies, economic calamity isn't so much a revenue issue, but rather a spending issue. Indeed, barely a week goes by when there isn't some discovery of a government-engineered economic boondoggle that's guaranteed to raise a taxpayer's blood pressure. Case in point, just 2 days ago, Blacklock's reporter noted that Ottawa is spending some $885 million per year on illegal aliens and refugee claimants. This includes free counseling, nursing, home visits, transportation, eyeglasses, and other supplemental health services. Meanwhile, as Blacklock's adroitly notes, 6.5 million Canadians, you know, those rubes who are funding the gravy train for the non-citizens, well, they are without a family doctor. Golly, remember when Blackface said a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian in defense of those Canadians who had aspirations to becoming terrorists? Well, it seems that illegal aliens now have more rights than actual Canadian citizens. I mean, is anyone picking up the tab for your Uber rides? Last year, I recall shelling out about $100 for a pair of prescription reading glasses. Where's my handout? As for supplemental health services, well, we're all on our own for that, my friend. Unless, of course, you are transitioning to the other sex. Then that boob job is on the house, of course. So methinks that a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian is now obsolete. Indeed, a more apropos slogan would involve paraphrasing George Orwell, namely, all Canadians are equal, but some Canadians are more equal than others. Moving forward, I think operating a Canadian Doge initiative vis-a-vis eradicating unneeded and wasteful government spending would not qualify as rocket science. It would be more like shooting fish in a barrel. Now, full disclosure, I've never shot a fish in a barrel, but I assume it must be very easy to do so. What I'm getting at here is one needn't do a deep dive search for wasteful government spending. Rather, examples abound. They're all around of how government spending is out of control. A simple internet search, or perhaps just doing a freedom of information request. Case in point, I can't watch a single quarter of an NFL game these days without being bombarded by senseless federal government advertising. Such advertising amounts to nothing more than virtue signaling at best and unofficial election sloganeering at worst. You know, claptrap like this.
Canada, it's time for more us. Because we're more than just a place on a map. We're an attitude, one with more empathy than ego, more unity than division, more grit, go, and we got this. The more we choose to stand up as our most flag-flying, maple leaf buying, local adventuring selves, the more we are the true north, unbreakable, strong, and free.
Now, folks, when it comes to any ad, there's typically a call to action. When Ford advertises its F-150 pickup, Ford is hoping you'll actually come down to a dealership and buy a truck. But what's the call to action with this ad? Well, there isn't one. It's just 30 seconds of rapid-fire nostalgic clips paired with cliched slogans. Why was it even made? Other than enriching the coffers of liberal-friendly ad agencies, that is.